Good afternoon, good people. Welcome to the 11th episode of Life, Laughter and Lockdown. We are going to be talking about managing conflict. Very, very important topic, or I probably could have named it avoiding conflict. But yes, this is the 11th episode. Thank you guys for joining, those of you that have been able to jump on so quickly. And hi, Evelyn. I hope you can hear me today. I know you had some problems before. So yes, this is quite an important topic, and I think especially whilst we're in this lockdown period, managing ourselves in such close proximity one to another is quite challenging, or it can be quite challenging. So Yaba is my faithful assistant, whom you cannot see. I say this every day, but hopefully you will be able to see that she's not a figment of my imagination, and I am not a ventriloquist. But I'd make it very poor if I can't pronounce the word. So hi, Ayesha, thank you for joining. And is that Selwyn? Sorry, there's something wrong with my eye today. No, don't mind me. So Cheryl, thank you very much for joining. So yes, we are trying to, get our minds right so that we can manage ourselves during this period and do our best to be able to, remain calm, remain centered. And, it might sound a bit of a stretch, but be the best version of ourselves that we can be during this period and learn a lot about ourselves during this period. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining. Guys, if you can share this video, there is a little bell that you can press so that you are able to be notified when I go live on this fan page. Okay, thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Patricia, for joining. Thank you, Yemisi, for joining. So let's talk about managing conflict. What is conflict? I would describe conflict as being a disagreement between two or more people that is not easily resolved. And that's just my quick summary of what conflict is. A lot of people find it difficult to manage conflict because it forces you to come out of your comfort zone if, let's say, you're somebody that is that's not very assertive. Conflict also becomes an issue depending on who you have the conflict with. So if you're in a working environment and the conflict that you have is between yourself and your boss, or it's a family environment and it's between you and your parents, it does become quite difficult to manage. So what people often do when it comes to conflict is avoid conflict. And I don't mean avoid conflict in the same sense of avoiding the disagreement, but avoiding how to deal with it. And one thing I've always said is that, conflict is part of being a grown-up. You are not going to agree with everybody. You are most certainly not going to be able to necessarily come to a amicable conclusion depending on what it is that you have conflict about. Yeah? So there are certain elements that makes it difficult to be able to manage conflict. So can any of you guys relate to this topic? Have you had any challenges in terms of managing conflict? You can give me a thumbs up if it's something that you can relate to, if it's something that you have experienced or something that you're experiencing now. So give me one of those. I think there's some little icons that run across your screen that you can, So great. So do share with me what your experiences are, and I will try and share with you how I have managed to manage conflict. So do we have any comments?
We have one from Sarah Annan. She says, conflict forces you to put your pride aside.
That depends on who you are. Because some people become more ignorant during times of conflict because there is a power imbalance. So hence the example of being a boss and working with, an employee, or being a parent. So yes, it can if you're prepared to deal with the conflict in question, but sometimes what actually happens is because of the position that the person holds, they lord their position over you. That's when you have to become quite savvy in how you manage that conflict. Now, what I think is helpful is when you are able to gather your thoughts. I work as an emotional independence coach, so I teach people how to make decisions about their life or how to make choices that is not from a place of anger, trauma, or past negative experiences. So I teach people to be able to make decisions about their life that is from a place of calm, consciousness and, and very deliberate in saying that, right, I am going to do X, Y, Z. I'm not angry, I'm not upset, I'm not offended. And for that reason, I can make a decision that I can defend and stand by because I had, I was present at the time that I was making those decisions. So if that makes sense to you, give me a thumbs up, just so that you have a little bit of understanding. I think someone's posted a comment.
Let me see. Archibald. Eso. He says.
What was that?
He says there are positive sides to conflict. It helps you measure your tolerance levels.
Excellent. And I'm definitely going to get onto the positive side of conflict. So that is very true. So yes, I teach people to make those decisions from a place of calm. So when you have a conflict with someone, it's not the best to go in there all guns blazing, even if you are right. Because sometimes you are right and sometimes you have every right to be upset. But when you're trying to resolve conflict or manage conflict, you have to take the emotion out. It doesn't allow you to be able to present your case effectively, especially if there is a power imbalance or it's a conflict that has gone on for a very, very long time. And I think one of the other things that is worth mentioning is not allowing a conflict to fester. Because over time, people rewrite history. And over time, people repeat a story in their mind and even to other people that didn't quite happen in that order. So when conflict happens, it is helpful to wait until tempers have calmed down, you're able to recenter, and you're able to get your thoughts together and articulate what it is that you want to put across to this person so that there is peace, or so that you're able to work towards, a mutual agreement if possible. And I say if because there's times when it comes to managing conflict that you will never reach a resolution. You will have to accept that you're in a situation where two people or however many are going to have to agree to disagree. We see it in marriages where the grounds for divorce are irreconcilable differences. That is a good example of where conflict can no longer be managed and people have to go their separate ways. So it's also about having the confidence to say, look, this isn't working anymore. I'm going to have to take, a break on this because we can't reach a mutual agreement. Any comments?
Yes, we have a comment from Aisha Ankara. She says, conflict is a struggle, but talk with the person and also focus on the behavior, not on personality.
That's a good point.
And then MFA Ohene Asa Echampo, the one who won the book from the live book launch. She says, conflict makes us uncomfortable, especially when it's between friends or a couple. People try to avoid difficult conversations.
True.
And then one last comment from Yemisi, my mom. She says, conflicts can arise where values differ in a manner where it seems impossible to find a middle ground.
Very true. And I think, and a few of you have brought up a very good point. It's about whether you can reach an agreement and the fact that it's uncomfortable. And conflict, managing conflict or confronting conflict is uncomfortable. So let's get that out there. I'm not going to pretend and say, it's nothing, just go in and speak your mind and, we will live happily ever after. That doesn't happen. So what I am suggesting, what you may find helpful, is being able to recenter, go away, calm down, have an assessment of the situation. What part did you play? Because conflict management in terms of looking for a resolution may also involve you having to admit your fault in a way that doesn't make excuses. Now, one of the links I'll try and find for you is, I don't know if you've heard about the 5 love languages. There's also one about apology, how different personality types like to be apologized to. For me, sorry is a very feeble word to me. It's not something that I ever demand. I never demand an apology. It's not something that makes much of a difference to my life. For me, I am all about responsibility. Don't make excuses when you have done something wrong. Man up, and just own it. That for me is far more important when you're able to articulate that, yeah, Dillis, I know that whatever I've done to you was wrong. I know I shouldn't have done it. There was no excuse for it. It won't happen again. That means a lot more to me than, I'm really sorry, will you forgive me? Because I've never had an issue with forgiving people. So that doesn't help me. Mine is all about the responsibility. So I think it's also important that when you're speaking to somebody that you are in conflict with, or whoever, whatever the situation may be, that it's important that you identify how that person, if you're the one that's in the wrong, how that person would like to be apologized to, or how they would like the case presented, such that they are aware that you have moved on. So you have people like myself, I like to just deal with things and just get it out the way, and we can, live happily ever after. Other people need a little bit more time to be able to brood a bit. I'm not a broody person. This isn't about, knocking one personality over another. It's just that we are all wired differently. So you need to take some time out to assess the kind of person that you're dealing with and how you are able to speak to them in a language that they will understand. So, any comments?
We have a question from Mavis Ajikum.
Okay.
She says, how do you deal with conflict between siblings and family?
I'm glad that Yavo's got my disease. I'm ecstatic.
How do you deal with conflict between siblings and family? When you speak your mind to a grown-up from your family, in the Ghanaian perspective, they say that you are disobeying your elder, etc. How can we suppress what we think and feel? I'm
not going to teach anybody to suppress what they think or feel. Let's just get that out there right now. I will not, under any circumstances, teach an adult or a child how to suppress their emotions. Your emotions are there for a reason, and you need to listen to them and you need to pay attention to them. What is more helpful is learning how to manage those emotions such that when you are in a situation where there is conflict, you know how to conduct yourself as a mature adult. I'm 48. There is no relative in my family, even if they were double my age, that I would suppress my emotions if there was conflict. I would respectfully approach that person. Again, if we're going by culture and tradition, I may take an elder with me and say, Auntie so-and-so, Uncle so-and-so, this, that happened, and I wasn't happy for this reason. This situation has had XYZ effect on me. Yes, I know that culturally we don't apologize to younger people. Let us be the generation that changes that very damaging, irresponsible, horrible and entitled, attitude. It doesn't allow for peace to reign in your home. Yesterday, if you watched the episode on friendship, what I said at some point was, I do not allow titles to entitle people to affect my emotional or my mental health. The fact that you have a title will not entitle you to affect my emotional or mental health. What am I saying? What I'm saying is, as an adult, I take ownership and I take ownership for how I feel. I take ownership for my mental and my... I do not allow people to dump on me because they feel that they are older than me, because they have more power than me, because I don't allow that. So it's really important that as an adult, we can affect change in our own little way. So yes, traditionally, if we're dealing with somebody that's older than us or a parent, we're not supposed to say how we feel. Say how you feel. It is important. If you look at my story, when, I lost my husband, it was a given that I should allow myself to be treated in a particular way because other people allow themselves to be treated in a particular way. Hence the reason why I called my book Not This Widow. You can do it to other people, but you're not doing it to me. Question?
Okay, yes. We have Evelyn Edulai says lack of communication can be a core factor in conflict.
Very true.
And Yamisi says, in response to the question that you just answered, great question. We all have different personalities, temperaments, and values. These can be found in the same family. It can be really tough.
Yeah.
And then MFA Ohene Asa Echampon says, this is a question. What do you think of people giving their partners the silent treatment when there is an issue? especially when the other keeps probing to try to work it out.
It is called control. There is nothing positive about it. It is very controlling and negative behavior that is done to suppress you, to make you conform. And I find, and I'm just going to be honest, I found a lot of African men use this as a tool to control their wives. I've seen it a lot, where they would just not speak to you so that you start to feel very needy in wanting to have that human interaction. So you don't speak up and you don't raise any objections, so that you don't affect the atmosphere in the home. Don't fall for it. It's a very nasty, very, very nasty and negative thing that I find a lot of people do. And I'm not just saying, I just used a marital situation that I've seen a lot of, women that I've worked with that have always made reference to that kind of behavior. But people generally do use that. But it's a control thing. It's a control thing to stop you from being able to speak up. And you're right, communication is key. The best way to deal with that controlling behavior is do not let that person know that it's affecting you. So, for example, you don't speak to me, I will still carry on as happy as Larry and going about my daily business. I will speak to you with the same tone and the same, how can I put it, the same behavior as if I didn't realize that you weren't speaking to me. Do not encourage that behavior. It's very, very negative. How long do I have?
0 minutes, because you've done about 17 minutes.
So, guys, you know what this means. Well, like with friendship, if conflict is a real issue for you guys and you want us to revisit this tomorrow as a part 2, I don't mind. But yes, this, Life, Laughter and Lockdown is supposed to be just short bursts. It's not a feature film. So, yes. I will read out a couple more comments. If there's a question or anything, I'm happy to quickly answer, and then we'll carry on the conversation offline.
Okay. Yamisi says there can be simmering tensions in an environment, family, company, social, etc. These can fester for years. If there is no open, honest discussion, they can degenerate into terrible situations. Very true.
And sometimes there's a lot of hatred that breeds, underneath that. There's a lot of, negative energy that underpins that. So it's really important that you do address these situations sooner rather than later.
And then Abla Jifagumashi says, not these widows.
Absolutely. Not us. We are not the ones to mess with. As for us, we will speak up and we will speak out. And if I can do it, trust me, any of you can do it. So don't ever allow anybody to suppress your emotions or, abuse you, and just because of their title, make them feel that, they can get away with it. Not good. One more really quickly and then we are out.
And then we actually have 2 more comments.
Okay.
Aisha Ankara says, sometimes it's great to walk away from drama to stay away from conflict. And then Abba Katu Anda says it's passive in response to the silent treatment thing. It's passive-aggressive behavior.
Yes.
It's emotional warfare,
yes.
Abuse even.
No, not even abuse even. It is abuse. That is emotional abuse. So on that note, guys, and my faithful assistant has got something that she would like to leave with you as our little message for the day, which is...
Hot tempers cause arguments, but patience brings peace.
There you go. So on that note, guys, have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you very much for tuning in. I would really appreciate you guys sharing this video, which has been quite lacking lately. I am assuming that you do enjoy them. So do share, do like the page, and do subscribe. Guys, I shall see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock Ghana time, 4 p.m. British summer time, and the rest will be in the comments. Take care, God bless, and have a good day.